I predicted there'd be chaos at Twickenham, and I'm not just talking about a station, which is always the same. But the Autumn Nations series, the Irish media were asking Andy Farrell, what is the Irish style, and he was similar to Eddie Jones, said he wanted to create chaos. Now that is a word which has certain connotations, not necessarily good. What do you understand Farrell to mean by that, and has he achieved it?
Wow. Okay. There's a fair bit in that, Brian. I think the first thing is, if the opposition think it's chaotic, that's good. But if the team themselves think it's chaotic, I'm not so sure how clever that is. But what is definitely coming, there's a pattern developing over, and I mentioned it before. I really saw it happen in the autumn series against Japan. That the comfort with which the Irish players are playing a brand of rugby that is very similar to New Zealand in many ways, and it's no surprise, I suppose, when you look at some of the players being selected. But for the first time in probably my memory, and certainly since Joe Smith passed on the mantle, that the Irish players are asking so many questions of the opposition that wasn't happening under the Joe Smith regime. The Joe Smith regime expected Brian Moore or Liam Toland or whoever to be in the exact place at the exact time. And it was very ruck based, wasn't it? It was kind of 1 out pass, and the likes of CJ Stander were leading the charge in that sense. What you see now is someone like Caelan Darras, who's playing at 6 or 8, he's like a hybrid of many number 8s that have played for Ireland, but has the skill set, the football. He's brilliant in traffic, and he is creating opportunities for other players to relish from. And those opportunities are coming because Ireland are really asking questions of the defence, and there's a multitude of options available to them. You saw props, Irish props, like Tariq Furlan taking the ball on. You don't know if he's going to carry the ball, is he going to take it into contact, or is he going to pass it lastminute.com. And there's an awful lot within what Ireland are trying to do. I don't think it's chaotic. I think it's maybe after a certain amount of phases, it's eyes up stuff. But at this point in time, if an Irish player gets into heavy traffic, if they throw the ball left or right without even looking, there's a fair chance there's an Irish player who's going to run onto that ball with menace. And that's not chaos to me. And I look at the England side, and one of the things I pick out of the England side, the side that started against Wales, the entire pack was drawn from 8 different rugby clubs. And you look at the entire pack and you go, well, these guys are good players. But how long is it going to take Eddie Jones to get those eight players from 8 different clubs to be able to play in the way Ireland are playing, whatever system they want to play at? And I think one of the unique things about Irish rugby is that you look at Mac Hansen, who came in from Connacht, and he fits perfectly into the system, because the rugby he's playing in Connacht isn't quite like all the other provinces, but it's very similar to it. And he's able to transition. You want to call it chaos, like a rose is still a rose by another name, but none should smell so sweet. Call it what you want.
Yeah.
But the players understand what is expected of them, and it's a broader game than Joe Smith, and it's asking more questions of the defence.
Hi Liam, it's Rob here. I asked Andy a question after the Autumn Nations Cup game where they took on New Zealand, and said, in terms of the potential of this team to their performances, where would he rank them? For you, what are we seeing now with this team?
I think we're still in a sense of evolution, and I think that the game against France, I was at the game in Paris, I think that was an Irish team that was made up of Lions Test players and Lions Test winners, European Cup winners, and I think that game was probably the biggest game they'll have played in their career to this point. The timing of it was perfect. We lost the game, but only just. If we'd won that game, we'd be in the old Irish cycle of, it's a Grand Slam potential, and next thing we get to the World Cup and we fall off the ledge a little bit. I think we've a bit to go, and I think losing to France shows we have. There's question marks over our 10. Sexton definitely squeezes more out of this Irish team than Carberry does at this point in time. And the big question for me is, when we play against the power sides, and I'm not so sure England qualify as a power side, France do, South Africa do, and it looks like we might be playing one of those in the if we get through to the playoffs in the World Cup. So how can Ireland play at a pace and a skill level that fatigues the big fatties of France and England and South Africa to a point that we can win those games? And we still have yet to kind of unlock that, but we're a long way towards it. So I think this Irish side, I'm enjoying watching them. I'm enjoying being at the games. And I really am appreciating the skill set and the level of the players that are playing for Ireland in the jersey. But that question of how do we, particularly when you play against France in Paris, as we did, they stacked their bench, didn't they? They had an extra forward on the bench. So how do you fatigue these guys enough to score? And I think if the Irish game against France went on another few minutes, I think we might have got there. Because the physique, the pace, the fitness and the skill set of the Irish team. But in an 80-minute window, that's probably the question mark for me. Can we exert our game upon the bigger teams in those moments?